my friends. This is Andy Falco Jimenez coming to you live from Yorba Linda, California. And I am the host of this podcast and show and the president of the California Parent Alliance. And if you would please go down here to the CaliforniaParentAlliance.org and subscribe to our newsletter, as we will send out a newsletter letting you know when we have anything possibly new on the website, a new blog, maybe new information about what's happening around the state of California in regard to our education system and our children. When we have events coming up, a whole bunch of things we have planned and are doing. It's been a while since I came out with a new podcast because there has been so much going on since our event in Westlake Village, and I'll share a little bit of that. Those happenings and some pictures from our event there at Novo Cafe. It was an awesome night. But just in relationship to the space between the event and the podcast is that we had a special meeting at our school district down here at the Placentia Yorba Linda School District, where it was to finalize some of the wording that is in the resolution to ban CRT in the school district. And it shouldn't have taken this long. We've been at this for several months now, and just the nonsense. It's just, it's nonsense. What is going on? And so with that and a number of other things that have been going on in our state, and actually in our nation, has led me to a period of time where I really needed to kind of sit down, write down some thoughts, respond to the events of the special meeting, and in response to actually, since we first started this process of banning CRT in our school district, which should not have taken this long, right? But the lies that are coming out from teachers, from organizations, not necessarily students in our school district. Now, some people that speak, some kids that come and speak at our school board meetings, especially in this last one, is an organized group of people, and they portray it as their representative of the majority, which is obviously a lie. And they bring up issues and thoughts and arguments that are also a lie. There's not one thing, as I sat there and listened to each one of them go up, there's not one thing that they say is truthful. And it's really interesting that I had to also sit back, because sometimes I can be pretty strong in my beliefs and my thoughts and actually say what I'm thinking, which is not always good. That these people are morons, but I'm not, but just like that. But, It is odd, because I began to think about the couple school board members who support critical race theory, and the district superintendents that support this thought and this ideology and this curriculum, along with other people within the school district. I'm not even sure what we would even call them, just other folks, whether it's parents or librarians, you just can, the other people that make up what would be considered a school or a school district, that are not necessarily what we would look at as stupid people, right? We have sometimes everything from averagely educated people to extremely smart people to people with a DR or a doctor in front of their name that say things that are extremely stupid. Now, are they stupid? Probably not. And my wife and I have this discussion quite often, where she says, well, they're not stupid, nor are they acting stupid. They're responding in a way where they cannot be looked at as an opponent to, critical race theory or LGBTQ. Now they've added IA or something like that to the end of this LGBTQ. I have no clue what that means. What those last two initials that I've seen recently added, that if they say, for instance, when the justice that's being nominated is asked a question, can you define a woman? And she says no. That's utterly ridiculous, right? It's an utterly ridiculous statement by somebody who has been a judge has gone through law school, and that is somebody who's seemingly passed a bar, that person now cannot define what a woman is. And I say she's just pretending to be stupid so she doesn't get, canceled, so that she doesn't say something that's going to cause people to go, oh my gosh, she actually says that there's such a thing as a woman, that they have XX chromosomes, or that they have breasts, or that they have a vagina, or that they can give birth, or that they have periods. Like none of those things can be said suddenly, then she now cannot define that. And I will argue that she has to act stupid. And that is my take. Now, my wife, she's incredibly intelligent and has a different take, and I understand what she's saying. But what happens is that she has to pretend that she doesn't know, as to not upset a certain group of people. And I'm not ever willing to do that. The fact that she's willing to say in front of the entire world that she does not know what a woman is, and she is one, is just astonishing. It is astonishing. It is absurd. And then they go on to ask her, what's CRT? I don't know. They go to, when does life start? Another, again, for an educated person to say that they don't know when life starts, that literally starts at conception, that if you were to go to, who doesn't know that? I could go to probably one of my children easily and say, hey, child of God, when does life start? And you're going to tell me that a 9-year-old child who would say, well, when mommy and daddy get together and they conceive a child is when life starts, right? And you're going to tell me that a 9-year-old child has far more intelligence than somebody that is being nominated to the Supreme Court. And so this is where I had to kind of step back and I go, okay, calm down. And you can see how excited I get. Calm down. Let's look at what is going on. And there's things that are obvious, right? There's things that are obvious to those of you that watch this show, that support it. There's people watching that, of course, that want to pretend they're stupid, and they are, on the left, and they are looking at this and saying, "Oh, he's going to tell the truth," and we hate it when he tells the truth. We want to continue with the lie and call it the truth. But before, but I had to sit back and think about what it is that, that I can say either at a school board meeting or in an email to send off prior to this final vote. Supposedly, we've had this final vote, I don't know how many times now, but as we come into April, the April school board meeting, which I believe is next Tuesday, I want to send a letter out that kind of just, lays out to them in a way that will let them know that we are onto their lies, we are onto their act of acting stupid, and here are some of the things that you need to realize. Dr. Elsasser, Karen Freeman, Carrie Buck, that you and that's the superintendent and the school board members that are on at the Placentia Urban School District. And all of you that watch that are all over the state of California and other states have your own school board and district superintendents that are doing the exact same thing. So I'm using mine as an example to all of you and that are watching from other districts and other states, that you are going through the same thing. You have people that are tired of being lied to and know the truth and will never accept your lie. And you can keep saying the lies as often as you want, because we know that your belief is that if you just lie big and lie often, that many people will believe you. Parents are not going to believe. Well, most of them. There are some parents who have somehow bought into the lie, and I don't get it. I just simply don't understand. Sorry, I see that I have my wife's name up there. Let me get rid of that so that you don't get confused, because it's just me. And so I wanted to come out. And so what I'm going to do, this is going to be a quite possibly a 4-part series. I was originally going to be a 3-part, but as I continue to talk about it, this is probably going to be a 4-part series. So this is part 1. And what I'm going to read from here in just shortly is a portion of the letter that will go out to the school board from me to them and the district manager and other people that I may address it to, discussing this, that, you know what, I'm going to simply lay out the facts. We know the facts. We know the truth. We know that you know the truth, and you know the facts, the ones that I'm going to be particularly directing this to. And we're not gonna continue to put up with it. That your decision to pretend that what the people on the left, or the greenies, as we call them, because they come with green shirts and green hair and green nose rings, that it's all nonsense. That we know that it's an organized group of people that get together that may or may not have children in the school district, that may not even be in our school district. That no matter how much you try to do that your lies are falling on deaf ears. That we know the truth, and we're going to continue to push what is the truth. All right. What I do just simply want to share with you just really quick and go back to is the event at the Novo Cafe in Westlake Village was an extreme success. And we had a large group of people. This is just a shot of the room, the restaurant. As soon as I find the right window here, as we click through this, there's a couple. So here's what it looked like from the back of the room towards the screen. And then a side view, you can see that it goes all the way. It wraps around to the left. I'm standing behind another group of people, and behind me where I took the shot, there was more people listening in. And we had a number of speakers there. It's a large number that if I started, I wouldn't remember everybody, and I don't want to leave anybody out. We had Leander Blades, who came from our school district, the Placentia Alberta School District, and she spoke about school boards and her experience being elected as a conservative Christian onto the school board, and everything that has happened that happened before she got elected and after, which was a lot of shenanigans. We gave her the Golden Bear Award from the California Parent Alliance, essentially acknowledging what she has done for children that I think will not only impact the Placentia Yorba School District children and the parents of those children, but the entire state of California. It takes a couple school districts to actually fight against these left ideologies and policies and CRT and mandates. And it takes us a couple school districts to actually begin to make inroads in changing the school board, changing some of the policies, fighting against them, and making inroads. And the reason we decided to give her that award on March 14th was because with her election, Scott Youngblood, who was another school board member, and in some ways Marilyn Anderson, who was also elected but has turned out to be a bit of a rhino, with their election, we have been able to make some inroads and some changes at the school board that I believe will begin a wave, along with some other school districts that are also doing it. If you know of any people that deserve the award, let me know. We also gave an award to Alec Mayer, who is a co-founder of the California chapter of the Children's Health group, and I'm messing up that third name of the group, Children's Health. Oh my gosh, somebody help me out if you can comment and finish that name for me. I'm so sorry, Alex, if you're watching. I don't know why I'm having a brain fart on that right now, but she was also awarded the Golden Bear Award because of her fight against vaccines and vaccine mandates, and has done a wonderful job of bringing attention to all the issues that go along with that. And that was my birthday. We didn't need to see that. It was my birthday on March 14th also, and we just decided to celebrate that. All right. So that was, again, it's a great event that we were so happy with the turnout. All right. So I want to get to the first part of this letter. This is going to be part 1 of my letter. And this simply addresses, now, when we have to understand that when we're talking about critical race theory curriculum or CRT curriculum or DEI or whatever other name that they give this type of teaching, well, first of all, let me address that you've heard, right, that this is not being taught. So number one, if it's not being taught, if the people that come on and say, whatever it is, if it's into a school board meeting, or if it's on television, or if it's one of your friends that says, I don't know why you parents are getting in such an uproar over this thing, it's not even being taught. That is a lie. We're seeing it every day. We see videos of teachers not only teaching it live in a classroom, when they're being recorded in the classroom, but we're seeing teachers going on TikTok, going on Facebook, going on Instagram, telling the world that they're teaching it and how happy they are to teach it. So the nonsense that it's not being taught is absurd. The other thing, that if it's not being taught, why do you care if we ban it? If you're saying that CRT is not even a thing and it's not being taught, why do you care? Why are you coming in groups from an organized group of organization just to fight against the parents? The parents of the kids that go to school are fighting against it. This group is not the same as the parents of children that go. Now, again, you may have 2 or 3 that have bought into it somehow, or that have mistakenly, mistakenly think that what they're saying is true, because you've not decided to go, hey, let's go and see actually what they're talking about, and then discover, oh my gosh, what they're saying is not true. And so there are those few parents. I understand that, but it's so few and far between that, that you simply have to understand that it is being taught, that this lie that is not being taught, once the teacher closes the door, because there's no cameras in the classroom. I'll be talking about that in a future. I am for cameras in the classroom. We'll be bringing more attention to cameras in the classroom, but just understand that CRT is making its way, whether there's an official curriculum through the state of California, which if you go to, the state of California's Board of Education, that you will see that they have an outline, a guidance to how to teach these concepts under the guise of other names and other subjects. It is, in fact, being taught and being pushed already, and has been for years, being pushed on our children. So that is a lie. Then we're going to get into some of the other issues in the future episodes of, it's not just about race. Now, they're using race because it's the easiest thing for them to use, that causes people to have a reaction, right? When somebody says, oh, you're racist, that is one of the worst things you can say to somebody, especially a Caucasian, or somebody that's a mixed Caucasian and Hispanic, Caucasian and Asian, that you call them racist. It's one of the biggest attacks that they can say against you, that will cause you to say, okay, I'm just going to stay quiet. Okay, I'm just not going to fight against it because I don't want to be considered a racist. And so it's the easiest way to get a parent to back off and say, okay, I'm going to back off and not fight it, and allow you to teach a little bit. The problem is that we've done that for so long that they've taken a little bit and it's gone to a little bit more, and a lot more. And now it's come to this place where now we're a little bit behind in the game, that we've allowed teachers to come in that have this thought process that they must fight against all these so-called injustices and make up a lie about these injustices. And now we are a little bit behind in the game of fighting against it. And so this thought of it being simply about race is also not entirely true. The whole idea eventually is to get to a point where you're marginalizing people to the point where you separate them by races, you separate them by the so-called gender identifiers, which is absurd. And so the races, the inroads, the end is the separation of children and people as they go to college, as they go into business, by race and so-called genders. That is their goal, to separate everybody. And it becomes somewhat of what you can find in prisons. Prisons are separated by race and gender identifiers. And this is a prison political thing, which I'll get to later on. We won't be able to get there until probably part 2 or part 3 of this, but it is really... There is a history, I believe, or a basis for for my belief that this comes from what how am I trying to say this? That is found within prisons. There is a political system within prisons, and it is a division by race. It is a division by gender, not just men and women, right? So you have men's prisons, and women's prisons. And then within each one of those prisons, you have divisions by gender identifiers to protect them from other genders, I guess. All right. So let me go ahead and get into a little bit of the reading. And I didn't know any other way to do this than to read it. I'd gone through a couple scenarios in my head of how I wanted to do this, but I'm going to address simply the idea that their thought that the word systemic, which is absurd, right? It is absurd to claim that the United States, that the police departments, that that a business is systemically racist. And this was a big discussion at the last school board meeting, at the special school board meeting, and they even had to look it up, which is absurd, right? I'm going to use this word absurd a lot, and there's going to be a reason why. I'll probably talk about it more on part 2, but I want you to get the idea that's the absurdity of things, and then I'm going to tell you why absurdity is such an important word in part 2 as we come back, because I want to hit you with something that is part of the process. And it'll make sense on part 2. So you're going to hear this word absurd and you're going to go, why does he keep using the word absurd? There's a reason. And I'm going to tell you why in part 2. So the start of this letter, and this letter is changing every so often. I've moved paragraphs around and changed some words. So if there's anything that you want to comment on, please comment in the comment section there so that I can see what you have to say. If there's something I said that bothers you, if there's something that I said that you are for or against, please put in the comments. If you're wherever you're watching from at some point, I would love to hear where you're watching from and what your thoughts are on all of these subject matters. Okay. And so let's go ahead and get into this letter, and I'm going to begin reading it to you, and then I'll have a little discussion as I conclude. I believe I'm going to read. Yes, I'm going to read 4 paragraphs. And then I'll tell you what we're going to come to in part 2 so that you understand where we're going with this whole thing. And again, this is just dealing with racism and systemic racism. And then later on, we will get into the gender issues, the sexualization of kindergartnens. We'll get into how education, the way they want to push education, what direction they want to push in it is racist, and some of the other issues later on. All right. So today is just on systemic racism and in the United States. All right. So the letter starts out. One of the oddest things that has emerged from my time attending school board meetings and studying what is going on in our schools, districts, teachers' unions, is the lack of competency of what we consider to be the leadership. The lack of competency of the leadership. I want to make sure that you understand what I'm talking about, that we have leaders that are simply incompetent. Not that they're stupid necessarily, not that they are uneducated, but they're not competent enough to handle the position that they have been put in. And I've seen it. We've seen it at the last couple of meetings. We've seen the district manager has no competence in his role as a superintendent at our school. We see the president and the former president of the school board are incompetent. And now it's being exposed. All right. So I want to clarify and make sure that this is very clear. I've kind of lessened a little bit so that they will continue reading, because I know once they read a couple of these things, they'll just stop reading. So teaching is the lack of competence of what we consider to be the leadership of the districts, unions, and education system. In a recent meeting, a school board member actually had to look up the word systemic to see what it meant. How is it possible that people essentially in charge of our education, and even some with the label doctor in front of their name, do not know what the word systemic means? Are they actually uneducated, or are they pretending to be uneducated to please the audience who support the lies and absurdities of CRT, critical race theory? Without looking it up, I can tell you systemic racism means an entire system is racist. In other words, in another, oh man, I found a typo. Of the most basic tenets of CRT is to teach that our entire U.S. government is racist, or that law enforcement agencies, state and federal, are all racist in their entirety. All the way down to grading systems are racist. The entire system of grading is racist. To go even a step further, they also believe that all white people, not just some, all white people, by virtue of their whiteness, the white system, are all racist. This idea or ideology is absurd on its face. The good news, most parents are not stupid, nor do they wish to pretend to be stupid and refuse to entertain this belief or ideology. If you really need an example of a systemic racist system, I will give you some. The Chinese Communist Party is a systemically racist system. The North Korean government is a systemically racist system. Nazi Germany was a systemically racist system. The Ku Klux Klan was a systemically and still is a systemically racist system. The Black Panthers was a systemically racist system. The thought that a child in elementary school is guilty of historical injustices or guilty of being a white supremacist simply because he or she was born white or privileged is insane. Most, if not all, children in our school district are colorblind when it comes to the other children in their classes. And it isn't until an adult puts a racist thought in their head, and up until now, this would not happen in the teaching of simple math, reading, and writing lessons, if not for teachers who push critical race theory curriculum. The United States of America is the most diverse country in the world, giving opportunity to anyone regardless of race. Every federally run system, which includes the Senate, FBI, CIA, military, Congress, post office, etc., within our government encourage and promotes the hiring of minorities and has done so for decades. If you are a minority, it will benefit you to say so on an application, not harm you. And even more so if you speak even more so if you speak another language. Your promotion through the ranks will be far more likely if you are an educated minority as well. As someone in 1983 and 1984 was going through the law enforcement application process. Sorry, I lost my place. I was constantly reminded by everyone I talked to about getting on a police department. They would say, do not forget to check the box Hispanic. Your chances of getting hired will increase 100-fold. They would often follow up with, it's too bad you are not African American. Your chances of getting hired are even greater. You don't even need any college. True statements. When it comes to our federal government, or more specifically the United States of America, the idea that the most diverse country on the planet with limitless opportunity to become successful and is encouraged regardless of your race, sex, or even ability to speak the English language is again absurd on its face. A country that was one of the first countries to abolish slavery, a country that invites people of all races to come to our country and contribute to our society, a country who has elected minority leadership for decades, including a president and vice president. Do you think the Nazi Party, CCP, or North Korea would do any of those things? Do you think organizations like the Ku Klux Klan, Black Panthers, or Aryan Brotherhood would allow the diversity found in our country? Would they write in their bylaws that all men are created equal, like it is written in our Constitution? No, because they are all systemically racist. And the United States of America is the exact opposite of systemically racist. What gets in the way of either being hired or promoted is lack of education. As we can see in very clear statistics, is that the education of minorities in primarily minority cities falls below the national average. What must be noted is that these cities and educational systems are being led by a large percentage of minority teachers and administrators. Therefore, how is it possible that a system like the city of Chicago education system, the Chicago Police Department, which employs a majority of minorities, is systemically racist system? So that's the beginning. And I wanted to read that to you, and I'm going to continue to read the rest of the letter moving forward. But I wanted to stop there because I really wanted you to get to understand what it is that they are trying to push on you, the parent or the school board member or the school district superintendent that may be watching this, who has not bought into it, but is maybe wobbling or maybe wondering, why am I racist and I don't know it? Is the United States entirely racist? When I see Karen Freeman, one of the most incompetent people, I think, on the board, Carrie Buck is also pretty incompetent, but just listening, I've listened to the school board meeting. I know it seems impossible, but I listened to the conversation between the school board's members and the superintendents, and even an attorney that they had hired, and you listen to the intelligence coming out of the people that understand that what is being said is absurd, which is namely Leandra Blades and Sean Youngblood, and then you have the others, and you see the just sheer I don't know. I'm trying to use other words and not keep repeating the same words over and over, but you see the sheer incompetence. You see the sheer desire to believe. In Buck, strangely enough, I get the idea that she may have some intelligence. And yet she will respond with, well, they said it's systemically racist, so I'm going to say that it's systemically racist. I believe the United States is racist. And then she'll say at least parts of it. The moment you say parts of it, or there is a racist person, that takes it out of the systemic category, because you will find in every system, you will find in every walk of life, you will find in every city, every country, everywhere, there is going to be bad apples. There's going to be somebody that's racist. There's going to be somebody that's a murderer. There's going to be somebody that's going to rob a bank. You're going to find somebody, but that doesn't make the entire system racist. You're going to find a bad cop who stops and calls stops a black person and calls them the N-word. That cop is racist. That doesn't mean the entire system is racist. And so you have on this recording, you can hear her say, well, there is somebody that's racist. And then she goes back to believing the entire system is racist. Those two things don't go together. You can't narrow it down to say, well, there is one person or there is something about it that might be racist. Well, then change that thing. Whatever that is, that doesn't mean change the curriculum. It doesn't mean you got to get rid of the system. It doesn't mean any of those things. It just means identify the problem, identify the hiccup, take that out, and now you now have fixed that one problem. In our schools, if we have a student who says something, and very unlikely that it happens in an elementary school, but I'll address that in a minute. But in junior high or high school, if you have a student that attacks somebody with racist slurs, you don't change the curriculum because little Johnny was raised incorrectly or has a Tourette's that causes him, or he just is racist. Who knows why? He watches the wrong videos and he calls somebody a racist name, or he lashes out somebody in a racist manner. The way that has always been dealt, this has always been dealt with, is you deal with him. You don't punish everyone else. You don't now say because he often wears blue shirts or like gray shirts to school, that now you have to change the dress code because little Johnny often wears these shirts, and now that has become a racist dog whistle. As we often hear, right? We hear this all the time. Like, if you make this, now this is going to get me pulled off of YouTube. But if I do that and say, okay, right, then somebody used that and they're racist. So now that has become a racist dog whistle because Johnny calls somebody a racist name and he wears gray shirts, or on that day he wore a gray shirt. You now don't change the whole system to now ban gray shirts because Johnny at the time he used a racist slur is now that gray shirts are a racist dog whistle. Just the same is Johnny saying something racist about somebody and attacking, making them cry. Now you don't get rid of all boys out of the system, or all white boys. Or if maybe he's Asian and said something racist. Now you don't ban all Asians, boys, from the school because he says something racist. Do you see the absurdity that when you have something where it can be addressed with a policy that we will not tolerate racist slurs in our school. That is the policy. That is a policy. You don't now change an entire curriculum because somebody used a racist slur. This is what they want you to believe. This is how they want you to react. That you change a system, or a system suddenly becomes entirely racist because little Johnny came to school in a bad mood and he decided to call somebody a name that is a racist name. You name the name, whatever it is. And now you have to change the system. Let's say you have a run that Johnny somehow is a very likable child, and now he has caused a group of children within within a high school to become racialized. Is that a good word? I think that's a good word to use, because that can happen, right? That surely can happen, where a culture can be created from a very strong personality. This happens in police departments on occasion. A culture can be created within an organization. But I'm going to keep it within schools because that's what we're talking about. But we could surely apply this to the law enforcement. The very same thing, where an investigative unit like the crime task force, which we used to have at Anaheim Police Department when I worked there, that you can get a leader in there that says, you know what, we're gonna really target the Black community, right? You can get that. That can happen. It happened in the Newton district in LAPD, that you have certain leadership, and it creates a culture where then the leadership becomes a little bit racialized. Then you have a couple minions that become racialized, and now you have 3 or 4 guys in a 10-man unit or 10-woman unit, 10 man and women unit, where now that culture now leans in the direction of a racist group of people. Well, what ends up happening at LAPD, they come down on them and they press charges. That is how you handle it. You don't change the entire LAPD. You don't then say, but what was said is that the entire LAPD is racist. No, it was this group of people. Same thing in a high school, where you can have a very strong personality and a group of boys that are attracted to being with this boy because he has a strong personality, and being with him gets you noticed, gets you in the right crowd of girls perhaps, or gets you in the right group of people that on the surface looks like, oh, that's pretty exciting. They're rough and tough and they're kind of cool to be around. And it could be seemingly cool. They all drive the coolest cars perhaps. And now you've created a bit of a culture with a group of people. Do you now change the entire school system within the district because of these 5 or 6 boys? Right? We've heard of this happening in other schools and universities, where what do they call it? A fraternity goes bad. Well, you end the fraternity. You don't change the school. You don't change this. The whole university doesn't become racist because of this fraternity. Maybe for a moment, the news media tries to do that. Do you see where I'm going with this? And so with this portion of this letter, what I'm trying to address. Now, again, this will not change their minds. It will not change the mind of Dr. El Sasser. It will not change the mind of Carrie Buck or Karen Freeman. Because they've made their stand, and now they can't move. Much like the justice that they're trying to get pushed into the Supreme Court, she's put in a position where now she's stuck. Karen Freeman is stuck. Carrie Buck is stuck. Dr. El Sasser is stuck. They are not willing to change because they believe if they change, the people that they have surrounded themselves will disown them and kick them out and not like them. What they don't realize, the numbers are against them. The parents is a much stronger party. The parents of Placentia Yorba Linda, the parents of California, the parents of the United States are a much stronger union of people that don't take lightly to you calling my 3 sons and my 3 daughters racist. We don't take lightly. And I don't take lightly of trying to change their genders and telling them that's wrong for them to be strong, athletic, masculine boys. I don't take lightly to that. I don't take lightly that you are saying that my 3 daughters are not feminine. that they are women, that they are strong women. I don't take lightly that you're trying to tell them that they're not allowed to be women. That stand not only for me, but it will not stand for other parents who have boys and girls that go to these schools. We don't take lightly when we thought that Disney was somebody that we could trust to leave our child with in regard to a movie. No longer will I trust my children to be left alone with a Disney movie that will be trying to indoctrinate them, trying to tell them that they may be not a boy, that might not be a girl, that they maybe should look at being something else other than a boy and girl, that they may even consider being an animal, that where they will now go to the bathroom in a litter box. They are not to be trusted. Dr. Elsasser, Karen Freeman, Carrie Buck, again, who are part of the Placentia Alberta School District, you put the names of the people that are in your school district that are doing the same thing, cannot be trusted with our children. Simply put, they will not change. I barely think that Marilyn Anderson can be trusted. It depends on what day you see her. It depends who she talked to, who pressured her to change her mind. I am not sure. I would trust my children to be with Leander Blades. I would trust my children to be with Sean Youngblood, and a few other people. A teacher, Bloomquist, over at Golden Elementary. I love her, and I would trust her with my daughter any day in a closed door schoolroom. I would trust her to teach my child, my daughter, my son, the right thing. Why? Because she teaches kids how to read, write, count, and how to think. She doesn't indoctrinate them with thoughts that they may be racist. She doesn't try to indoctrinate them with thoughts that they may not be the right sex. She doesn't indoctrinate them with thoughts that, you know what, succeeding is not good. She doesn't try to indoctrinate them that a nuclear family is bad. She will not do that. I know that, but not Karen Freeman. Not Carrie Buck, not Dr. Elsasser, not the teachers or the superintendents or the school board members in your school district who believe in CRT, DEI, flying a rainbow flag, LGBTQIEIO flag. Those people cannot be trusted with my children. You should not trust your children to them, and you should not trust your children with Disney movies. They have proven themselves to be untrustworthy, unreliable, incompetent. Essentially, they can't be trusted. And it would be absurd for you to leave your children with them. I wouldn't let them babysit my children at all. They cannot be trusted. And yet here they are, in leadership positions within our school. All right. So once again, this has been part one of my discussion on the lies and absurdities of CRT that are being they're trying to push into our school districts. And this is just the first episode. I would really appreciate it if you would, number one, go to our Facebook page, the California Parent Alliance Facebook page, subscribe or like or whatever it is that you do nowadays. Some of these things have been changing names, and I haven't been paying attention much. But go there. We're also on Rumble. So if you are on Rumble, you could go to the California Parent Alliance on Rumble. I'm also broadcasting on YouTube. You go to the Andy Falco Show on YouTube, the Andy Falco Show on YouTube, and I'm on Twitter. Just type in Andy Falco Jimenez. I think you should find me on Twitter. I don't do much on Twitter, but I get a lot of information. I love watching, the liberals lose their minds. That's my Twitter is where they mostly lose their minds. So I go on there to see, what's next. What's the next thing they're going to be coming up with? So please do that. I hope you I've gotten something out of today's message today. Again, in part two, what I'm going to be talking about is how they've taken our education system and have done such harm in our education system that what they are doing, the left, not teachers like Bloomquist or some of the other teachers that I really enjoy, and I don't want to name them all. I just know Tara has essentially has surfaced and has simply put herself out there as fighting against this stuff. So I'm pretty sure she doesn't mind me saying her name out loud. I used to not share her name, but I just want to make sure that she that she's an example of the teachers that we want in our schools. But we'll be talking about how the education system in California has become racist. That surely, when you're lowering grades, when you're doing things that harm children that are in the minority, whether it's race or through financially in the minority, and they can't afford to go to their own private schools or church schools or religious schools, the harm is being done to them. That is what's causing the division. And so in the next one, part 2, I'll be going into those areas and sharing with you my thoughts on why I believe that the current system that we are using is what in fact is racist. All right, my friends. So I appreciate you guys watching. Again, please share this out to your friends and other people that may need to see this. And please go to the CaliforniaParentAlliance.org. Number 1, go to our Facebook page and like it and subscribe. And then I will see you at the next one. All right. Talk to you later. Take care. Bye.